ankle when he was very young, and went through all kinds of surgeries and skin grafts, and they could never heal this wound because of a birthmark that he had on his leg. So it was like carrying a snake bite for most of his life. My older sister, like I said, didn't like it so much in the USA when we moved, but she has come to terms and made peace with this good country, and now lives in Brooklyn, New York, with her husband and little boy. And then my brother, who I say was like Gary Lineker. Does anyone know who Gary Lineker is? No. He was was to sort of English sports fans maybe what Joe Montana would have been in the late 80s, early 90s, sort of the quintessential English sports star, you know, who was the striker that all the boys emulated, and we all idolized and wanted to grow up and be like Gary Lineker. And he also did these commercials for potato chips, so that's why the sort of the salt and vinegar thing fits in there. But I say my little brother was like Gary Lineker because he, if any of us were going to actually grow up and play for Ireland, he was the one who had the talent. Except that when we moved to America, he discovered punk rock music. Instead of spending his teens, honing his soccer skills, he spent his teens, sort of fashioning mohawks and wearing chains and getting tattoos. So none of us went on to play for Ireland, but he went on to open a fish and chips restaurant in Northeast called the Anchor Fish and Chips.
Oh, sure.
And,
what?
Awesome. Why did you bring him?
No, you're right. He could have done the supplied the hors d'oeuvres.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
And then my younger brother Joel, who might have the most affinity with some of you, if any of you went to Robbinsdale Cooper. He's was a Robbinsdale Cooper. Probably the only one in our family actually went to school here in Robbinsdale. He was in love with The Fly, I say, because The Fly is one of Bono's alter egos. I'm not sure if you're familiar with his different personas that he's used over the years, but he's always had this uncanny fascination with U2 since he was very little. And I can remember him coming home from, one of the tours, maybe he's 10 years old, and he said, "How was it, Joel?" "Best night of my life ever." And every time after that he came home from the tour, it was the same story. And he even went to the point. One time he showed me his forearm, and he said, "Man, do you see this group of freckles here in my forearm? Bono has the same constellation. Exactly the same place." So, gotta love him. I think he's developed his musical taste a little bit, and now he has a few more bands on his iPod. But, well, like I say, moving at 13, starting here in Minneapolis at Patrick County was a bit of a shock to the system for an Irish boy who was used to going to school in sort of blazer and tie and uniform at public school, but very strict, and it took me a while to adjust to swearing at my teachers. Wasn't accustomed to that. But no, it's a very different story in Ireland. Even our public schools were very, very strict, probably much like a private school situation here. And I can remember 11 years old, we would start high school there. So we just had two schools, primary and high. And as an 11-year-old boy, leaving the house at 6:30 in the morning, and getting on a city bus that took me into centre of Belfast, and then another city bus out to the other side to get to my school. When I think about sending my 11-year-old daughter in 2 years' time on a city bus into Minneapolis and out the other side to her high school, it doesn't appeal to me very much. But I mean, it tells you a little something about the atmosphere that we were growing up in, the trust. There was a level of trust in the atmosphere, but at the same time, it was a very tragic time in Ireland. It was during the Troubles, and there was a lot of insurgency and sort of rebellion and violence in the air. So I can remember, being on the city bus traveling home from school, and we would have these things called bomb scares, where the paramilitary groups would call the authorities and say, look, we've planted a bomb in this such and such a place, and they would, these were economic targets or political targets, and so they would give them warning, and then the authorities would try to essentially evacuate the entire downtown immediately. And of course what would happen was that everyone got stuck in this big traffic jam trying to get out of the city. And I there as an 11-year-old boy, sort of sitting on the back of the bus watching the sun go down and wondering, if I was going to get home before 6 o'clock, and if a bomb was going to go off nearby, and you can imagine sort of the uncertainty in the air. So this is a song that I wrote after moving to the States and reflecting back on what that was like to grow up in that atmosphere, through the eyes of an 11-year-old me with romantic aspirations for a young girl called Fiona. But one of these times there was a bomb that went off nearby, and the reverberation just from the explosion shattered the back window of the bus, and that features in this song, but it gives you an idea just of how close it was. Left the house at 6:45, caught the 76 downtown on time. Stood there in the rain, she called out my name, I just cried. I took the 17 uptown, from the back of the bus you could hear the song of the bombs explode, and our fears implode into the night. Oh, Fiona, I had something to show you. When I walk you home, baby, maybe tonight. Oh, I had something to show you. When I walk you home, baby, maybe tonight. Maybe tonight. Maybe tonight. Baby, maybe tonight. Got out of school at 3:30. I took a bus from Methody downtown. Stood outside the shops. Everything had stopped like the end of time. The sun was going down too fast. I couldn't wait to leave Belfast downtown. No one was going anywhere. Even the cops were scared out of their mind. Oh, Fiona, I had something to show you. I wanna walk you home, baby, maybe tonight. Oh, Fiona, I had something walk you home, baby, maybe tonight, maybe tonight, maybe tonight, baby, maybe tonight, oh, Fiona, I had something to show you. When I walk you home,